Kelly's Eye, brought to you by Ellis Brown Architects.
Peter, what's Kelly's Eye looking at today?
A depressing sight today, David. I suppose the end of an era. I'm looking at a sign that says closing down sale.
Yes, it's pretty clear, isn't it, that sign on the front of a shop here that I don't know how long this has been here with the name above it, but probably quite a long while now.
Probably 20 years in this site. Anyway, here we are in Castle Street in Douglas. Go straight in, go to the jugular, and we're standing opposite at night the shop that proudly bears the name Kermode and Bignall. Up above, shoe shop, and it's a ground floor. There'll be a basement, then ground floor, first floor, second floor, and third floor. Quite a tall building. It's a building of Victorian period, early Victorian, probably 1840s maybe. In the 1930s, I would say, it's been pebble dashed on the upper floor and bands put around the windows. Of more recent times, it's had plastic windows put in. The house, or probably the property next door, which is now called Treads, that's brick frontage, and a lot later, 1890s, I would say. And that one was completely gutted. I don't really remember. They put a steel frame in, and that was one of the Kerfee outshoots. Kermodes and Bignalls, of course, started. Well, they didn't actually. They for a long time were on the other side of the road, right at the beginning of Castle Street, where it met Wellroad Hill.
100 years ago?
Well, it goes back further than that, in actual fact. I had a look in some of the directories, and in 1894, William Kermode, bootmaker, was in number 3. But if I go back to 1881, William Kermode was at 31 Chester Street, out behind. His wife was Jane, and what we're told is the two ran it together. He made the boots and she sold them. So a little bit of Hobson's choice type of thing, you know, with the pushy wife maybe, and he's in the back doing the work. Well, anyway, they were in number 3. They didn't own it to start with. It belonged to one of the Kerfees, who actually owned the property next door. Then eventually they bought it, and I think it was her that bought it. And we sort of move on then to the next generation, their daughter, who was Muriel Blanche Kermode. She married a chap called William Bignall, and they took over the business and they tacked on the Bignall. So I don't think there was ever a partnership between the two. It was a bit like Kay and Gill, the architects. Wesley Gill took over George Kay's business and called it Kay and Gill. So then the name Kermode and Bignall appeared, if you like, in the 30s. The shop next door, number 1, belonged to, at that time, William Quirk, the baker, although he wasn't using it as such. And they took the tenancy of that and then I think ultimately purchased it. But in 1935, in May 1935, they went for approval from Douglas Corporation for a terrific new shop front. One of these ones where they brought in shop fitters. They actually came from Birmingham, the shop fitters, Harris and Sheldon Limited, and this was a hardwood shop front with, I don't know, this black or deep blue glass panels with Kermode and Bignall in gold lettering sort of inset in behind. Swish, I think, is how I'd describe it. It wasn't deco, it wasn't modern for the 30s, but it was the sort of shop front that gave you confidence. This was like Hobbs' shoe shop, which you got in London. And so they ran the two together up until such time, of course, as that and many other properties coming this way in Castle Street and that way in Strand Street, and then going back in behind, were all bought up and then eventually demolished to make way for the Strand Shopping Centre. So for those of you who don't know it, if you go to the Strand Shopping Centre and look at, it's probably Mark 1, it looks like MK1 to me, where that shop is, that was where the double shop. But of course they didn't amalgamate it in taking big chunks of wall out. There was an opening where you went through from one, and I think it was ladies and children in one and gents in the other. Certainly number 1 was a lot narrower and went down to a point. But now then, David, what can you remember in that shop?
What, in the earlier shop?
Yeah, there's 2 features in there which have stuck in my mind ever since I was a child.
I can't remember having even been in it, let alone remember anything.
Well, I can remember they had this X-ray machine. And as a child, you'd go up a step and put your feet in this gap on this, again, typically 30s machine. It was finished in a veneer, plywood veneer, which was curved round, and then up on the top was these sort of two holes that you looked down, and then they put the electric on, and it was an X-ray. You saw your toes, you saw them, the bones in your feet within the shape of the shoe. And
I never saw that.
Oh, right, and that was to tell you whether, of course, the shoes were too tight for you, and so on. What it did for your feet, I don't know. Probably everyone that you see hobbling around has had X-ray or gamma rays in their toes. But anyway, that was one feature, of which I'm not aware that any other shoe shop in Douglas had. So maybe it was a draw for people, and of course my mother always reckoned you press down, she know exactly where your feet are. I don't think she did when you see them now. And the other feature in there, which was in the number 3, I think, or it could have been in number 1, someone will tell me, spiral staircase.
Oh, right.
So when they went to the stock room to come down with a big pile of shoe boxes, the poor assistant had to go round. And of course, spiral staircases are not easy to go
They
up
are not,
when you've
no.
got your hands free. So to go up and then to have to come down carrying shoe boxes was not an easy task.
No.
But anyway, those were the two features that I certainly recall. What happened to them both? I think the X-ray machine disappeared long before they moved, and well, who knows where the spiral staircase, it may have gone in the demolition, it may have been taken out before the demolition.
Many of the most iconic buildings around the island have been designed by Ellis Brown Architects. Keep up with Ellis Brown today on Facebook or via ellisbrown.in.